So one example of market failure is a category of products known as public goods. The name can be a bit confusing. People often think that they're called public goods, because they're provided by the government or something. And whilst it's true that if they're provided, that they are generally provided by the government. That's not why they're called public goods. They're called public goods because they provide significant benefits to society as a whole, but they're not worth any one individual providing. And the result of that is that, basically the point about public goods, the reason they're market failure, is that in a free market, there won't be any at all. Now this rests on, remember, some of the assumptions of the free market, which is that people are individual, rational maximizers who only care about themselves. But if they are, there won't be any public goods provided. Therefore, it will be an example of underproduction. There won't be any welfare gained from public goods in a free market because they won't exist. So why is that? And the reason is it comes down to, well, public goods have two key characteristics, of which one is very, very important. The key characteristic of public goods is that they are what's called non-excludable. And what non-excludability means, or what non-excludable means, is that you can't stop non-payers. So you can't exclude people from consuming the good if you provide it. So we cannot stop non-payers from using the good. So what sort of things are we thinking about here? Examples in textbooks often include things like national defence. In other words, once you live in the UK, whether you pay your taxes or not, or if you come to the UK, and somebody has provided national defence, whether it's the government or not, they can't make you pay for it. I mean, you're here, you're protected, that's it. Or other examples are things like public firework displays. You can see them from outside the ground, from outside the venue. They go up in the air. It's non-excludable. Now, with that one, people say, but we can put a fence around it and so on and so forth. But it's this idea that there are certain things where you can't actually restrict access. Once it has been provided, then everybody benefits, whether or not they pay. So the classic example is something like flood defences. So on the coast, there will be sea walls built to defend coastal properties. Well, whether you pay or not, your house is protected. They can't kind of leave a little gap where your house is. So we can't exclude people who haven't paid. But that is a big problem. And this non-excludability is the key problem with public goods. And I'll come on to that in a minute. They have another characteristic, which is that they are also non-diminishable. Or some people will say they're non-rivalrous. These mean the same thing. It basically means that consumption by one person does not reduce the amount available to others. So, if my house is built behind the seawall, your house can be built behind the seawall. My house doesn't take away from your seawall. Whereas with marker pens, obviously, if I've got a marker pen, you can't have it. National defence would be an example. Another person coming to the UK, they're still protected by the UK's armed forces and so on. So those are the two key characteristics of a public good. They're non-excludable, they're non-diminishable. And if ever you're writing about public goods, it's really important that you just kick off with those two definitions. In a minute, I'll come back to why clearly they provide market failure. But I'm just going to digress slightly, to show you, the way in which we can use those ideas of excludability and diminishability. It can be quite helpful to characterise certain types of good. So if we put excludable up here, so either yes they are excludable or no they're not, and we put diminishable down here. That's a long word to write down the board. So diminishable down here, either yes they are or no they're not. Yeah, and if we break it, if we break it into a bit of a grid like that, yeah, then public goods live down here. They are non-excludable and they are non-diminishable. Their evil twin, the opposite of public goods, is what's called private goods. A private good is like my pen. It's excludable. Yeah, if I walk into the shop and try and take it away, if I don't pay, the shop will arrest me. And they're diminishable, as we said, because if I've got a pen, you can't have it. There are two other categories of goods, one of which we'll have a look at, and one of which we won't. And we'll have a look at one separately. The one we're not going to pay a great deal of attention to, is these ones down here, where they're excludable, but they're non-diminishable. They're a curiosity, but they exist, and because they're excludable, they can be provided through the market. These are sometimes called club goods. It's not on the syllabus, but it's things like Spotify. It's excludable. If you don't pay your Spotify subscription, then they'll cut you off unless you can steal your friends. But it's not diminishable in the sense that if I use it, you can use. If I'm using Spotify, you can use Spotify. We can all use Spotify. I mean, there's no restriction. We know that supply is essentially completely elastic. So we're not competing for. If I'm listening to Beyonce, then you can too. We're not in competition. It's not rivalrous. It's not diminishable. The one that we'll move on to have a look at in a minute is goods that are diminishable, but not excludable. And you can immediately see that's likely to be an issue. If we can't stop people from accessing them and they run out, then we've got a problem. They're called common goods, and we'll look at those a bit later on. Okay, so the last thing we've got to ask ourselves on public goods then is why does the market fail? And the reason basically the market fails. So why is there market failure? The reason there is market failure is that because they're non-excludable, there is no point in paying. So because public goods are non-excludable, we can't stop non-payers. As a result of that, nobody would pay. No rational individual would pay for a public good because you can get all the benefits without paying at an individual level. But therefore, firms make no profit, and therefore they won't supply them. So in a free market, there will be no public goods. So there will be no public goods at all provided in a pure free market. Now in the real world, not everybody is perfectly rational and so on and so forth. So people will point to the idea of lighthouses and say that local communities, they would club together to provide a lighthouse to keep ships away from the coast. But from a narrow-minded economist point of view, that's not a rational thing to do. Who cares if there are dead people washing up on the coast? Hey, maybe it's good. You can steal their stuff. But so in a free market, there won't be any public goods, and we can show why, therefore, that's going to result in a welfare loss. If we look at the idea of, say, sea defences, so this is kind of seawall in kilometres. So this is just building a wall of concrete stuff to protect the coast. And we might well argue that the marginal cost of seawall is simply horizontal. In other words, 1 kilometre of seawall costs the same as any other kilometre of seawall. It's just you just got to put down a load of rocks, and you've protected the coast. But the benefit, obviously, this costs and benefits. The benefit, the marginal benefit. Here is somewhere where we have lots of danger at sea. That kilometre, that's the Oxford seawall. Designed to keep the ships of Oxford safe from storms. It provides no benefits at all because we have no sea. Ideally, we would say that is the optimal amount of seawall. I don't know how much that is. Let's say it's 5,000 kilometres. If we produce 5,000 kilometres of seawall, we get all of the benefit. We get all of the kilometres of seawall where the benefit is greater than the cost. So we get that very dangerous place. Yeah, we get that one. All these ships are saved, lives are being saved, all the way up to there. So that would be our welfare, that's our community surplus, if public goods were provided. Yeah, if public goods were provided, we would have all of that welfare. But as we've just argued, they're non-excludable. The actual amount of public goods will be zero. No one will provide them, and as a result of which, because there's no profit, as a result of which, all of that welfare is lost. Therefore, resources have been misallocated. It would have been better to provide more kilometres of seawall, but we don't do so. In a free market, therefore, there will be no public goods, welfare will be lost, and therefore there will be a market failure. In reality, we operate in a mixed economy, and therefore the government, hence this is why some people call them public goods, but hence the government in a mixed economy would have to step in and provide sea defences. The trouble for the government is that it's very difficult to know exactly what these costs and benefits are. I mean, if a kilometre of seawall saves a life, well, how much is it worth spending? So actually, it's very easy for the government to miscalculate itself, and maybe provide too many kilometres of seawall or too few. And under those circumstances, we can end up with what's sometimes called government failure, which is something that we'll move on to later. But if we're going to have public goods, then in a free market there won't be any. So in a mixed economy, the government is going to have to provide them. And that's one solution to market failure, which is direct provision.